So where do you think that confidence came from?
Nothing to lose, man.
Yeah.
When you got nothing to lose, bro,
Wow,
what are you going to do?
Man. Yeah, and that's, once again, it's funny, there's this misconception that, business owners, that, they were given things or they grew up. And what I'm finding, most of them came from the most adversity to where it's like, whoa, what do I have to lose? How bad can it be? What are you going to say no to me, hurt my feelings?
That's right, yeah.
Welcome to the Beltran Podcast. I am here with another amazing guest, guys. When you hear the word entrepreneur, when I say the word entrepreneur, this is one of the guys that pops in my mind, like one of the first ones, because he's always doing some awesome stuff. Right now we have Mr. Roger Templeman in the house. What's up, brother?
Hey, brother. How you doing, man? Thanks for having me over, man.
Good, man. So Roger, right now, he's owner of CADCon Design, which is a draftsman. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, we're draftsmen. We're a drafting company.
Drafting company.
Yeah.
Also, you have Stabilize and Revitalize, which is an amazing organization that really helps out a lot with Fort Pierce. Give them a little idea what that does there.
Yeah, Stabilize, Revitalize Fort Pierce. That's our mission, man. Stabilize and revitalize a city that we love. And we started this out with the purpose of being a boots-on-the-ground cleanup organization. We want to kind of unapologetically go in places and maybe clean up things that haven't been cleaned up yet and address issues that are not being addressed.
Yeah, very cool, man. So, what we do here, we really kind of want to get into the story of Roger, where you come from, some of the things that you've been through young that kind of got you where you are today and, positive or negative.
Yeah.
But really starting young, I do know you are from the Detroit area.
Yes,
Is that
sir.
correct?
Yeah, from Detroit City.
From actual Detroit City.
Detroit proper.
So it's, I don't know if it's true or not, but from what I hear, it's not really the friendliest place to be from. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's friendly enough. I just think it can be a dangerous place if you're not supposed to be there, I think, in some cases, right?
So I guess, yeah. Friendly to the right people.
Correct.
Not to the others.
Possibly.
Yeah. So how long did you live in Detroit?
So I was born Sinai Grace Hospital on 6 Mile Road in Detroit.
Okay.
Went home to my home in Brightmoor as a little baby, and I lived there till I was 27 years old, and I moved out of Detroit to a suburb of Detroit, Hazel Park, right on 8 Mile.
Okay. All right, like the movie.
Like the movie.
Wow. So so that whole time you were living in Detroit in that area, what kind of work did you do? What'd you grow up doing?
So I basically grew up in construction.
Okay.
My dad and my whole family worked in the auto industry because it's Detroit. You do that.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to do any of that. So anytime I seen an opportunity to be outside of a factory, I jumped on it. So as a young boy, I was probably 8 years old, man, cleaning gutters.
Oh, wow.
Washing windows, like anything I could get the local landlord to, not run me away.
So you would go and like solicit the business yourself?
Absolutely, man.
Wow, dude.
Absolutely. I'm like little old ladies, washing walls in her house, and I'm like, hey, lady, you want some help with that?
Yeah, man. And you're still like that, man. I love it. So you were doing that, and then once you were old enough to work, like, did you ever like go work at a job, actually have a boss for a while?
Well, yeah. So I mean, starting out young, I had some bosses, like off the books, because you're not supposed to do construction at the age I was doing it, right? So I had some of those jobs, and then I did actually kind of door-to-door sales as a kid, as a young man.
Wow.
Cutting lawns, obviously, everybody does that, but selling like window thermometers from the JT store, which was a mobile store that would drive around your neighborhood back in the day.
Really?
Yeah, and so I was kind of like a foot salesman. They had a kit, like a starter kit for kids that your parents could basically sign out for you, and you could sell 10 of them or one of them or 2 of them, and then you get some money, and they'd take most of the money.
Wow. So tell me about door knocking. It's been coming up a lot. And so what lessons did you learn from knocking doors?
Well, I mean, I learned a lot of lessons just as a kid knocking doors, and one of the things is that you want to relate to that person as quick as you can when you knock that door. And I have one memory of that where there was a old lady had two houses adjacent to each other, and there was no fence between the two backyards. And I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, well, you got like a really big backyard. Well, it turned out her daughter owned the house next door. Daughter wasn't in town. And when she'd come to the door, I said, hey, you need to get your yard cut. I see you got that really big backyard. It's both backyards. And she's, instantly started talking to me. Oh, it's my daughter's. Blah, blah, blah. And I became her lawn kid for like 3-4 years, man. And she had a huge yard. But just because I connected, I found, and I didn't know, this is just, I was as a kid, I just want not to be uncomfortable, you know what I mean? Knocking the door at 8 or 9 or whatever. I was a young kid pulling a lawnmower around the neighborhood. But it's connecting, I think. You learn that connecting with people is the most important thing. And when you're coming up to their house, there's a lot of things you can connect with, actually. You can learn about a person just walking up to their front door. Oh, yeah. You see maybe signs like, Giants, New York Giants, exactly, sticker, or even like license plates. You can maybe see if you saw a Florida license plate up in Detroit. That's a whole lot of story right there. Yeah, absolutely. It's a good way to connect, man. Yeah, very cool, man. And as far as like in sales wise, like, did you get a lot of rejection knocking doors? Actually, no, because at a young age I learned something, and it's if you allow them to owe you, 90% of the people will. And so what I'm saying is you knock a door and the grass is long. Normally it was like, kid, I really don't have the money to pay you. So I go, oh, hey, man, I live right down the street. Don't worry about it. I'll be back next week. No problem. I'm going to cut it for you today. We want to get your yard looking nice, right? So I learned at a young age, that was probably 9 or 10. And if you let people owe you, you can have residual income, right? So that day I could go and cut 5 lawns instead of 1 lawn, and I only got paid for 1, but next week I was getting money on 4 lawns. Right? What would you be doing anyway? Probably what would I be doing anyway? That's right, man. Yeah. So, so I think the way I avoided that rejection even as a kid was to give them options. Yeah. And really value, man. You're like, hey, well, don't worry about it. I'll take care of you anyway. That's right, man. That's huge. That's right. Man. And you build trust. People want to feel like you trust them. If they feel like you trust them, they're a little more likely to trust you too. Yeah, you gotta give to receive. Right, yeah. Wow, man, that's intense, man. It makes total sense. And these are things that in business, I like to live by. Lead with value and always give and don't expect. But that's very brave. That was probably more stupid than brave. I was a kid. Makes sense. $5 today, I could get to the party store and get a bag of chips and a soda. So that was, more my agenda. But looking back, I do feel like it was always in my DNA to do that. And, in like the position where I am running my business and with the nonprofit, I tend to be the sales guy, although I hate being a sales guy. It's like painting. I'm really good at painting, but I hate painting, right? Yeah. And I tend to really be good at sales or being convincing to people, and it's just not something I would want to do. Like, I wouldn't want to go be a sales guy at a car lot or at Art Van Furniture or at a furniture store or something, right? Because high pressure sales and all that, it's not something I get into. Like you said, I want to bring value. I want people to be like, man, Roger, like you educated me, you gave me quality, maybe you delivered something nobody else could, or in a way nobody else could. So sales has kind of always been in my blood. Yeah. It's just I never wanted to be a sales guy. So that's why I always ended up gravitating towards working for myself so I can use that talent, the way I see fit, in the world. And with the nonprofit, the work that we do, I get to use that for good. Oh, yeah. It's my superpower for good. Yeah, that's another thing about you that I've always noticed is, you're always willing, not even willing, like you're excited to, and you look for ways to help,
to add value, to make a difference. You know, that's from the very, very beginning. Even when I first met you coming into Sailfish,
Yeah.
you know, you're always offering like, hey, man, oh, you got this coming up. How can I help?
Right.
What can I do? You need help cleaning up? Like, you're always that, man. And that goes really far, man.
I guess this is how I am, man.
Yeah.
But thanks for seeing it, man.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, and that goes into the 501c, you know? So, like, when it comes to charity work, I know we've talked about this. You were involved in charity work. No, is that the I don't even know if that's what you call it, charity work, but it's kind of what it is.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, I like to call it, I guess, nonprofit work is almost better than charity work.
I like that.
Right?
I like
because it's I'm working, but not to make a profit.
that. Yeah.
Right.
So you were involved with that in Detroit,
Absolutely.
weren't you?
Yeah, at a young age, man. That's what probably kept me out of jail, man. Probably kept me
Yeah.
alive, you know, that and my wife.
So tell me a little bit about that. What did you do in Detroit with the nonprofit?
So in Detroit, as a young man, I was not a very upstanding young man, and had some neighbors that didn't think I was a great kid, probably, and did some volunteering with the Hope Park Association. It was a small little neighborhood, you know, organization, and one of the little old ladies that I was not very nice to as a kid ended up being on my team. I worked with her, and long story short, after about 4 hours of me being a big kid working really hard, her opinion of me was completely changed. You know, I went from, oh, Roger Templeman's here, to, oh, hey, here, Roger Templeman's here. Everybody meet him. He's such a nice kid. He works so hard. So that for me, you know, was like, hey, this is, you know, light on. Like, wow, I can affect a little bit of change in people's opinion of me. I can get a little redemption if I'm just willing to roll up my sleeves and work hard, you know, and show a little love in action, basically. So then I got involved with the Motor City Blightbusters, doing more stuff in the neighborhood. We'd tear down, you know, vacant, dilapidated houses where little kids are getting hurt, or, you know, that are, you know, they'd burn one house and they'd burn 5 houses in a row, and then they're left sitting there. And so with the Motor City Blightbusters, we would go with teams of volunteers and literally dismantle houses by hand and put them in dumpsters, and you know, do neighborhood cleanups where we would, you know, clean an entire block, both sides, the alley, you know, organizing with same thing, you know, 100, 200 volunteers. So I learned how to do operations working with the Motor City Blightbusters, their model, which is really tied to kind of like Team Rubicon. Those guys, they have a very similar model, you know, kind of how they do work in the field, and they assemble their teams. So I learned to do the team building, and, you know, kind of, to use one of your words, put aces in their places, right? You know, we find guys, hey, you're an equipment guy, you use a chainsaw, okay, so we get skilled guys doing the skilled, and nothing against someone that doesn't know how to use chainsaw, but you're probably going to use a rake, right? Yep. And we learned how to do that, you know, working with the Blightbusters, and you know, just kind of stayed with me, man. I always carry that with me.
Yeah, I guess it kind of fills a place in your heart, man, because
yeah, for sure,
you gotta you gotta have some type of reward, you know, and definitely it's not monetary. It's funny, I was talking about this the other day. It's like true altruism, and what they say with altruism is like helping without your no benefit in mind for you. But I just don't understand that, because like I love to help, I love to do things. I'm, you know, always when I can, I will. But at the end of the day, it does make me feel good.
Right. So
you know,
you're not doing it.
Yeah.
It is kind of. It is selfish in a way. Well, it's selfless but selfish, right?
Exactly.
Right, because you are getting fulfilled. But I mean, I think that here's the thing: if you can fill your cup by doing good for others, then that's the best way to fill your cup.
I love it.
Right?
I love that, man. And yes, and I guess that's the way you have to fill your cup, you know, and now once again, that's for you, but it's for you so you can continue to fill others.
Well, and you know, and I will tell you another thing is, I'm a firm believer that if I give you, you know, $100, guess what? I'm gonna end up with $1,000 later, man. That's just how I am, man. It comes back tenfold. Anything I do, I give you a piece of bread, I'll end up with 3 sandwiches.
Yeah.
So that's just how I feel about it, and I guess maybe it is a little selfish when I do stuff for people, because I know,
yeah,
like it's guaranteed. You know, the more I give, the better things will be in general, right? And if things are better for you and me and the neighborhood and the community, then it's better for me. It's benefiting me.
Yeah.
So hey, we can all be a little selfish in that regard and
I love it.
seek to get some fulfillment through giving to others.
I love it. It's the way I see it as well. It's like, it's this, what vibration are you living at? What frequency are you living? If you're living in that giving, positive, loving, helping, you're tuned into that frequency. So your world around you tends to be on that same frequency, which is positive.
Yeah, I agree,
it's
man.
giving. The universe will give to you, so it's like, I agree 100%. And then, I kind of take it to that level a lot of times, because there's times I've been in my life to where I'm like upset, angry at things, like accusatory, like, saying, hey, why is this happening to me? But what happens? You're living on that vibration. You stay there because that's the station you're tuned into.
Right.
So yeah, no, I completely understand. So from the nonprofit work, when did you know, or when did you say, hey, I'm going into business for myself?
Oh man, that was at a young age, man. That was, I was 19 in Detroit. Became a licensed builder.
At 19?
At 19. So I had been doing construction work, like I said, literally 7 years old. I was cleaning gutters and stuff like that. By the time I was 13, I could run a metal brake, and I could bend and trim out all the aluminum on a house, like for a siding job. By the time I was 13, I could do that. So by the time I was 18, I was like, you know what, man, I'm gonna start my own business. I want to be a builder, and I decided I'm gonna go take my builder's exam. And there's like a list of like $500 worth of books that they wanted you to buy to study with it. And I didn't have $500, man,
Yeah.
So I was like, look, I've been doing this long enough. Here's how it's going to go. I'm going to go take this test. And if I fail it, I ain't never going to try again, because I've been doing this long enough. If I can't do this, what am I doing?
Wow.
So I sat for the test at the age of, I think I was 8. I had turned 18. Coming up on 19, and I sat for the test, and I walked out of there 15 minutes early, right? And I had circled back to probably 4 or 5 questions at the end of that to just make sure I got them right. And I still had 15 minutes left. And I walked out of there, got a letter later, I passed. Bam, I was a licensed builder by the age of 19.
Dang, with no books.
With no books, bro.
Wow, man.
No books.
Wow, so that's
just all tribal taught.
Man.
Well, and so let's talk about tribal taught. Tribal taught's great, but the truth of it is had I had somebody who was like, "Hey kid, I see this talent you got. Let me take this talent you got and enrich it with some structure." Right? Cuz that's what we and I don't want to take it off on another angle, but that's what we lose when we tribally train our people, is we lose structure.
Okay.
It's great to be trained in the field and you're on the go and you learn how to use that hatchet, but, book training, school training, things like that really help us get structure, right? And helps us lean on professional methods and things like that, too. 'Cause, look, I learned a lot of things when I was young you don't want to do, right? Like, you don't beat nothing with your hand. I learned that later, but I knew a guy who used to beat everything in with his hand, right? So that's just, that being said, I love where I came from, but if I'd have had a choice in the matter, if someone would have came to me and been like, Raj, you got all this talent, you're 18, go to this trade school, I would have done it. I just didn't have that option, which is one of the things that our nonprofit wants to help push, with like Project Lift. They have trade programs and stuff like that. So we really want to get involved in helping kids find trades that they're talented in.
Oh, I love that, man. So that's that little bit of detail. You say structure, like systems and those kinds of things,
right,
to where you could replicate. When you have that kind of structure, then that's how you could scale.
I would literally be a millionaire if somebody gave that to me as a young man.
Yeah.
Right? If I had the structure that I know now, that I taught myself, that I had to go out and learn and bleed and blood, sweat, and tears to figure that stuff out, I'd be a millionaire.
Yeah. And now you know it. And now that's what you're helping give the young children now.
Absolutely, man.
Absolutely, man. Super cool. So you got your builder's license, and you just went ahead and started a construction company, dude?
I did. I started a construction company, and at the time, my best friend, Chad Perry, who actually moved down to Florida recently to help me kind of stabilize some stuff, right? He had a company at the time, Solid Investment Groups he started, and we were doing what we called starvation investment. And we would get the auction list for properties in Detroit, and then we would drive around and we'd check off the list, what was a vacant lot, if it was a viable property, if it was a total, gut job, whatever it was. And then we'd go to these auctions and we'd let these guys, blow their, whole bank on a few properties that they didn't even know what they were. Some guys were bidding big money on vacant lots, and, it's like a lot worth $10 in Detroit. They bid, $2,000 on it because they didn't go do their homework, right? So we would go and we'd pick up what we could then there, So I'm buying vacant lots for $5, and then we go knock a door of the neighbor and go like, hey, you want to buy this lot for $500? They're like, sure,
Wow.
So, and then actually my first house that I purchased for $1. And it was in Detroit. So this was a house that I actually watched the house be firebombed. It was a domestic thing. The lady cheated on her old man, and he found out. He came back, threw a Molotov cocktail through the front window.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
It's not funny, but we watched it sitting across the street. So that house sat vacant for years after that. And, we'd put a board on the window, and someone would rip it off, and then, someone would go in there to use it as a place to, do illicit things. And we just kind of got tired of it. And I said, man, I'm going to figure out who owns this house, right? And I'm going to tell them they should just give it to me. And the premise of that is liability. So in Michigan, popular thing is quit claim deeding. So I came up with the idea. So, what? I'm going to have this guy quit claim deed this to me for $1. The minute he does it, he's not liable anymore. Like, his kid gets hurt in there or something else like that. So why wouldn't they want to do it? So I found, and back in the day, it's not like today. Today I go on the internet. I find everything about a property. I can find the owner in 15, 20 minutes a lot of times.
Yeah.
Back then, I had to drive from the west side of Detroit downtown to the Wayne County building and pay $3 per tax bill to maybe get some information that was viable, right?
Wow. Yeah, different
right?
times.
Different
man.
times, bro. Different times,
baby.
Yeah. So it turned out there was a company called LBS Realty in Detroit on 6 Mile who owned a bunch of these properties. And they were mostly slum-rated properties, essentially, right? And I knocked the door, got a meeting with the guy who was, vice president of the company or whatever, and sat down. I told him, I said, hey, man, look, this property here is open to egress. Someone's going to get hurt in it. I think you should sell me this house for $1. And he, he kind of laughed, like, whatever, dude. I could tell what he's thinking. And then I said, and in exchange, I said, I will absolve you of all liability immediately the minute you sign this quitclaim deed. And then his eyes kind of perked up. He said, hang on a minute. So he went in the back room, I guess met with his brother, who's like the president of the company. And he comes back out and he says, okay, we'll do it. I said, okay.
Wow.
Bet. He says, and I was wondering, are you looking for a job? And I said, well, maybe. I said, but this guy here at the time, my buddy Ed LeBounty, who's living in Miami, by the way, now, I said, my buddy Ed LeBounty here, man, I said, that's my partner. I said, so if you hire me, you got to hire him. So I walked out of there that day, and I was probably 20, maybe. Yeah, I think I was about 20 at the time. Bought the house for $1 and walked away with 2 jobs.
Wow, man. So where do you think that confidence came from?
Nothing to lose, man.
Yeah.
When you got nothing to lose, bro,
Wow,
what are you going to do?
Man. Yeah, and that's, once again, it's funny, there's this misconception that, business owners, they were given things or they grew up. And what I'm finding, most of them came from
came up
the most adversity to where it's like, whoa, what do I have to lose? How bad can it be? What are you going to say no to me, hurt my feelings?
That's right. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, man. So you started that, you bought some property. What brought you to Florida?
Lifestyle, man. Lifestyle change, quality of life, being able to spend time with my kids, my wife, stuff like that in the Midwest. The mentality is you worked 80 hours, and if you miss a day next week, you're fired, right? Yeah. It's relentless, and the value of family was the thing for me, because my kids at the time, my youngest was 2, and then I had 6 and 9, right? So that was my 2 youngest boys and my daughter, and I tried to get a day off to take my son to the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan. And at the time, my boss, I put the request in his box, and he kept sticking it to the bottom of the box. Like 2 weeks go by, and I put it in 3 weeks early, right? Come the 3rd week, he's playing games, not giving me my time off. And this is a job I was working 70 hours a week. I was a salary employee. And he didn't give me my time off. So the day came, I just took the day and took my son to the field trip. And he was mad about that, but didn't show it until it was time for my review. Come review time, which should have been with a raise, he said, we don't feel you support overtime when necessary. Right? So that was a slap in the face and a slap in my family's face. So that was kind of what made me just think, man, I got to get out of here. Like, I got to do something that is conducive to what I want to do, which is to be a family man. I got 3 kids and a wife,
Yeah, man. Good family man you are. You're always with the kids, with the grandkids.
Trying, man.
How many grandkids do you have?
3.
Holy
3 grandkids.
Moly, that's so awesome, man.
I have 3, yes. I have 2 grandsons and a granddaughter.
Oh, how cool, man.
And they all love coming out doing the cleanup stuff. They love coming out doing the paint stuff. Anytime they can spend with Papa, they love it.
Yeah, man. So, kind of speaking of that, going back to your parents, what kind of work did your parents do?
So my dad, he worked for General Motors.
Oh, that's right. You told me at the factory.
Yeah, factory. So he basically, I think a large part of his career, he was just huffing bumpers, man. Chrome steel bumpers off a hook and put them onto a basket, on an assembly line.
And how about your mother?
My mom, she did phone soliciting, cleaning houses, stuff like that. She was basically stay-at-home mom,
Okay. So do you think, like, when you started to want to go into the business for yourself, were they supportive? Did they understand?
No, because, see, in Detroit, when you grow up in a family where everybody works for the big 3, all you ever hear is, you better get an education so you can get a good job like so-and-so who works at General Motors or Ford or Chrysler or whatever. And I was always told, you won't even be able to be a garbage man.
Without, what do you mean?
Well, because I didn't like school.
Yeah. So you try to fast track to work for yourself, man.
Yeah, man, pretty much, man. And I went to Detroit Public Schools, and at that current time, and I'm not going to say what the schools are like now, but you'd you're walking to school, and if you got halfway there and you had to drop a deuce or something, you would turn around going home, man. Because you get to the school and there's no stall door on the toilet and there's no toilet paper. So that's tough, man. That's a tough environment for a kid, So, and then, I fought so much, man, going to school. You'd be in a fight on the way to school, in a fight on the way home from school.
Really?
Fighting in school. It's a tough it's a tough dynamic, man.
What, people just pick on you, or what are you fighting for?
It's a tough neighborhood, man. Yeah, part of it, they're picking on you. They want to try you, That's, where I grew up, man, if you took one whooping, you were going to get 100, right? So you needed to be able to stand up and either not take that whooping or let them know they were in a fight, right?
Yeah.
And that's the only way that their cousins, brothers, and uncles weren't going to come and try and steal your lunch money later.
Wow, dude. So I guess you learn a lot from that, man, to stand up for yourself.
Definitely.
Yeah, don't back down.
Don't back down, man.
I definitely know that.
I tend
about
not
you.
to take no for an answer.
Yeah, I know. That's one thing I do know about you, man. You're great. You're great at that. So you came here to Florida. What'd you do when you first moved here?
So when I first moved here, I went to work for a millwork company down south Florida, and we did mostly high-end residential, Palm Beach Island. You know, their stuff was probably 80% of that island. Very high-end, you know, exterior door, $20,000 custom-made exterior door type stuff.
And then?
So from there, actually, so I moved down here I didn't know anybody. We had no friends, no family. I didn't know what Port St. Lucie looked like till I rolled in a truck full of my stuff, right? And so I took that job down there. I actually lost that job after about 3 years, and it was kind of due to the whole Bernie Madoff scam. The guy was Ponzi scheming, stole everyone's money, and when that whole thing broke, our clientele much was on the island, people with money, affluent people. Most of those people have their money being controlled by money managers. They don't have direct link to what their money's doing today.
Yeah.
So I think as a result, a lot of those projects stopped. Like we were on projects where it was bustling, 10, 15 guys, contractors all over the place, nowhere to park. And then after that whole pyramid scam thing kind of broke, people were like, whoa, called our accountant and find out if we had money with this guy. And until then, don't do nothing. So like jobs just turned into ghost towns overnight. And so I was sitting at my desk for a month, man, without work, basically, before they ended up letting me go. And but I'm going to tell you what, man, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, getting let go from that job. But it was scary, man. I mean, it was a stomach full of crushed glass, bro, to have to go, you know, to tell your wife, hey, you know, look, I don't have a job anymore. And I moved you down here. I moved all our kids down here. We don't have a support system. Like, what are you going to do now? Right?
Wow, that's intense.
What do you do? Right? So you could curl up in a ball and die. You can run away, or you stand your ground, bro. Right? I wasn't letting life take me out, bro. So I stood my ground. And I guess I did a little bit of thinking, and, you know, I always had a website, literally since websites came out, man, right? Like me and my buddy Chad, we were 18, 19, we had websites. And at the time, though, like we didn't, and I think a lot of people didn't know how to monetize a website, right? So, you know, I'm 49, so I was 19, so you can figure that out. So a lot of people didn't know how to monetize a website, and we didn't either. We just thought it was like a digital business card, right? So we'd put pictures of our jobs there and this or that, and then on our business card, we'd have an address, you know, go to this. And actually, I'm going to tell you what, my buddy Chad, dude, back in the day, he had a QR code on his business card, dude, 20 years ago, bro.
Come on.
Yes, when 1% of the phones could scan it, he had it on his card, bro.
Really?
Yeah, dude. So that's a whole nother story, dude, on that.
Wow.
But so we always had websites, right, for my business and for various other things. And, you know, bands, I worked with my buddies for bands, help them do promotions. I'd throw them together a quick website, you know. And so kind of after I lost my job, I was just thinking, like, you know what? Like, I just need a website. And I got to figure out how to make this make me money. And basically what I did was I did some door knocking. You know, I was handing out resumes at first after I lost that job, okay? I put out 100 resumes if I put out one. And I was knocking doors, door to door to door, and getting doors slammed in my face, architectural firms, anything I thought I could work at. And I had some business cards made prior to losing my job, and I just must have had some epiphany in my mind knowing something was happening. So I had these cards made, and the idea was I do CAD, AutoCAD, and I do construction, and I'm pretty good at designing stuff. So I was like, you know what? CAD, Con, Design. Right?
Ah.
And so I had some business cards made, and I had one or two people I was talking to that might have wanted some work from me But I got so sick and tired of literally having doors slammed in my face and treated like I was a leper, right? Because, if you think about this, that was 17 years, about 13 years ago here in Florida, the economy was tough, bro. You couldn't give your services away. It was so bad, right? And so I was so frustrated, man. I had like 2 or 3 other places I was, already planned to go and knock doors and give my resume. And I just said, you know what, screw it, man. I threw my resume in the trash and I grabbed those business cards out. And like at that moment, I had a realization. I said, you know what? I'm done begging for work, right? So the next one I went to, it was an architect's, it was on Delaware, actually. It was an architectural firm on Delaware in Fort Pierce. And I knocked that door and I said, hey, how you doing? Roger Templeman, CAD/CON Design. I provide drawings on an outsourced basis. And the lady said, oh, really? Well, come on in. Have a seat. Would you like a cup of coffee? The architect will be right out to speak with you.
Nice.
So, and I remember sitting there waiting for about 5 minutes for this guy to come out, and I was just like, what a freaking difference, dude. Like literally, I couldn't get near the door. Like they see you coming up the stairs and knock the door, like, no, we're not hiring, go away. Don't walk on the steps, right? And here I am, come on in, have a seat, have some coffee. Because instead of asking for something, I was offering something.
Yeah, man, that value, man.
That's right, man.
Goes a long way.
That's the change. And that's what made me start CAD/CON Design full on, because I was playing with it. I didn't know what I was gonna do, but I said, you know what? That's it, dude. I'm done. This is how I'll be treated if I knock doors and beg. This is how I'll be treated if I knock doors and offer, right? So I realized that, and I took the time to basically make myself a search engine optimization guru the first year of my business, and I started a website, and it ended up going from knocking doors and cold calling, because I was cold calling, bro. I would go, back in the day, Google Maps, and I would Google anything like architecture, construction, millwork, cabinetry, and I would get a list across the whole country, and I would start as early as I could calling in New York, and then I would taper it throughout the day to call California and to get as much cold calling in as I could. Wow. You know how many hang-ups I got, bro? Yeah, but that's okay. It's okay, right? But it went from cold calling and door knocking to, before you know it, I didn't even realize it, but I didn't have time to door knock or cold call because I was quoting work, because my phone was ringing because people were finding me on the internet.
Wow, dude. And will you just watch some YouTube videos on how to do it or what?
Just, yeah, Google searching, how to make it relevant, blah, blah, blah. I just, read a bunch of stuff and educated myself as best I could, and, started to use best practices to design my website. And like I said, I've had experience with websites for a long, long time. And my theory was always kind of keep it simple, right? Don't make some big flashy page thing that makes someone's computer slow down or whatever, right? So I always kept it very streamlined, easy to find the stuff, and business. Here's my number, here's my email, boom, right? And I also started focusing on what I did. And when I started this business, I started in a niche market: millwork, shop drawings, and casework shop drawings. What that is we draw what the company that builds the woodwork builds, right? So we create a drawing, it goes on someone's workbench, and they build off of our drawing. That's a niche market. Most people don't know what a shop drawing is, right? Wow. So because we were niche, it was easy to become relevant online. If I was selling iPhones, I'd have never became relevant. But because the thing I was selling was niche, it allowed me to become relevant. I had less competition over the entire, country essentially. And, that's what got me here today, man. Sitting in my underwear, learning SEO and drawing cabinets.
And that was right around the time where we met, correct?
Yeah, man.
Oh, wow, man. Super cool. So now you got CAD/CON Design. That's what we go by, right?
Yep, CAD-CON Design.
We got 2 offices now.
Yeah, well, we have office in Stewart, and we have 2 offices in downtown Fort Pierce.
Very nice, man. And that's taken off. You've been getting busier and busier.
We are as busy as we want to be. Hiring anybody that actually can get work done. You know, if I can find a CAD draftsman that can do the work, I'm hiring them, man. I mean, I'm training people. We have an intern right now. We're training her. She comes from another field. I mean, she has CAD experience, but her experience is more in like surveys and things like that. And we're specialty, man. You know, we do a lot of like retrofit stuff, like the local market stuff we do. Retrofit stuff, remodels, after the fact permit stuff. And then the national stuff is the millwork and casework, which is super specialty. So it's hard to find people with that skill set. It's kind of a lost trade, but that's another thing RevTech Fort Pierce, one of our nonprofit programs, seeks to do, is to train young adults in this kind of software, CAD use, you know, computer assisted design software,
Yep.
and offer jobs.
Nice, man. And then, so you have the CAD-CON up and running. And then we talked about what you were doing in Detroit with the 501c. Now here we have Stabilize and Revitalize.
Yep, Stabilize, Revitalize, Fort Pierce.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about that. I see you brought showing some sponsors you have as well.
Man. That's not all of them, but that's as of the printing of that shirt, those were the sponsors. Definitely. And
did you print those? I think that was one down on the water there in Fort Pierce, very kind of close to that canal.
Yeah.
What was that called?
So the 11th Street Clean Spree.
That's what it was.
That was our big kind of first kickoff event that we did over there. We did 11th and 12th Street south of Moores Creek. We did a big cleanup.
And then is that when you cleaned up Narnia?
That's what
it
we,
was called?
Yes, we annihilated Narnia from existence.
So for the people that don't know, tell them a little idea what Narnia was.
So Narnia was a approximately 900 square foot of very densely grown pepper tree bush that was on 12th Street, just south side of Moores Creek. It was being used for some pretty illicit things, prostitution, drug sales. A guy was stabbed and murdered with a butcher knife in that bush. And it was evident when we cleaned it up by the amount of condom wrappers and needles and spoons. And actually, I think we pulled probably 10 butcher knives out of that bush. Wow. They were like strategically placed inside of it. Basically, they had carved it out into rooms, and there were kind of tunnels, you know, whatever, hallways, if you will, to get to the rooms. 900 square foot, man. That's a pretty big bush, bro. And it's so dense you can't see into these pepper bushes, man. And when we were doing the cleanup, the day of the cleanup, we had, I think, probably 8 of the local PD who that was their beat, right? That's their area. And they said to us, they shook everyone's hand. They were like, man, thank you so much for cleaning this up. They're like, this was the worst call we ever had to go to because it was like a 10-minute tour of Vietnam, you know? Because, like, you're trained to go into a house, put your back against a wall, go into a building, but, you know, you're not trained to go into a bush, right? And I felt when we found all these knives, like, I was, like, felt scared for the officers that had been in there. Like, they didn't even realize there was a knife around every corner in that bush, bro.
Wow, that's so crazy.
Crazy, bro. It's insane. And here's the most insane part of it is after this was brought up to me by a neighbor, I went there to do like recon, right? So a couple of days or a week or so, I went there in the mornings early, sun's coming up, kids are walking to school. And Moores Creek Path, there's so many young kids walking down that path, with some with parents, a lot without. And then you're 20 feet away from this scourge on the community that has been left to sit there by everybody, basically. I mean, everyone that knew about it didn't take action. Somebody told me about it, and I took it personal, man. You know? I mean, it reminded me a lot of, you know, the neighborhood I grew up in, Detroit, where you got, you know, people are sucking the neighborhood dry with tax lien vacant houses and doing insurance jobs, and, you know, they don't care about what the neighborhood has to deal with or what the young kids have to grow up in. They don't care that they're creating an environment of systemic child abuse, right? If your kid has to walk to school every day and think it's normal to watch a hooker giving a blowjob, that's abuse.
Yeah. Wow, man. And a lot of times these families, they don't see it like that. And, there takes a certain type of tolerance to understand that. And that's why I really, really commend you on another part of what you do is offer mental help. I know you've been working on getting some type of mental help.
That's something that we're working on because, when we sat down and we started to form the board for Stabilize, Revitalize Fort Pierce, I just, working on the mission statement and everything. And I just said, man, I can't think about, debris or blight without understanding there's a root cause to this, right? And a lot of times it's going to be mental health. Like no matter what the trouble is you're dealing with in the community, you can almost always circle back to mental health as a root cause, right? And if we know that and we accept that as reality, how can we do this and not have some kind of initiative towards mental health? So our concept towards mental health is called the Walk and Talk Initiative. So we're working to get licensed mental health professionals that will volunteer their time along with one of our volunteers. And if we can convince the local municipality to provide an officer, like a community policing officer or something like that, we'd like to have a team of 3 that can go around, walk through the communities, Moores Creek, down the tracks, where these guys are at, and just talk to them, man, and get to know their names. Like the guy living in that lot who was brewing jankum, by the way. I don't know if you know what jankum is. They poop and pee in a bucket and then they ferment it and then they huff the vapors to get a hallucinogenic high. I am not BSing you, bro. Google it. Jankum, Jenkem, right? And so the officers knew, the officers knew this guy was brewing poop and huffing it, and they don't even know his name. They call him the Poo Man.
I don't mean to laugh.
His name's Dennis, right? He has mental health issues, and it's really sad because every now and then his daughter will come and find him, out on the streets, get him back in clinical help. He gets straight, and then at some point he backslides and ends up back on the street again. And whether it's, drugs is the catalyst or what, I mean, ultimately it's mental health, I'm sure. And, guys like that, I mean, this is, not to be funny, but I feel like if you're huffing your poo, you're probably not going to go in clinically, walk in and say, hey, I'd like to talk to somebody, right?
Yeah.
And I think at that point, when someone is that low in their life, it's going to take someone to care, man, right? Someone's going to have to care enough to say, hey, Dennis, how you doing today? Right? Not look past him like he doesn't exist, not to not know his name and just call him the Poo Man, right? So, all of those things are going to marginalize a person. If every day, imagine if every day that you woke up, every person that you saw their face walked past you and looked away and didn't even say a word to you. How would you feel, and how long would it take for that to really weigh on you?
Yeah, man. It's definitely not going to help.
Not going to help, bro. No, It's not going to help. But if you're in a community where you feel like, hey, these guys care, then maybe you care. You start to feel like there is some hope. Somebody else does, give a shit about me, basically, And, through our Walk and Talk initiative, that's the plan, is to just kind of go out there and let some of these people know, hey, there's people that care. And there's a lot of people that care in the community. But I think the thing is, we're still treating mental health like our grandfather did, right? And we can't do it like that, right? The approach to mental health needs novel solutions, right? We need to be able to do things like the Walk and Talk initiative, where you get out in public, right, and head on address these issues that everybody turns their head at, right? There's guys out there laying under park benches, bus benches, up against sides of buildings, and you don't even see them, dude. They're like chameleons. When my son is, when we get time, he's starting the St. Lucie Sourdough Company, and he did a run on that downtown. He did kind of a short-term test of that, market test, and the English muffins that he had made that we weren't selling, the next day we were giving them to homeless people, right? So that's part of that, business model for him is he'll give away, his leftover bakery products. And when we were in the process of doing that, I had, probably 24 or a dozen or so of these packages to give away. And one of the homeless guys, I said, hey, buddy, like, do you know any guys out here that would need some of this? Let me know, or, tell them, find me, and I got some stuff I'm giving out. And he's like, buddy, look. He's like, all you got to do is slow down and look. He said, look under parked benches. He said, look against the wall along the road, right? He said, and before you know it, he said, you're going to see all of us. And it was literally like putting on different glasses that day for me. So now I can't drive around Fort Pierce without seeing every homeless person, right? It's like a different pair of glasses I'm wearing now because I don't look at the sidewalk, bro. I'm not looking for faces walking the sidewalk. I'm looking in the margins, bro, right? And there they are, laying under a bench, curled up next to a tree, trying to stay out of people's hair, right? So it's and it's going to take people to get out there on the street and give them and offer them that hand up, right, from the position that they're at. I think.
Yep. No, that's everything, man. And like you say, if there's no new plan, it's just going to continue. I
mean, what are we going to do? Go back to insane asylums, right? That's it.
Yeah.
Is that the
put them all together in one place?
That's it. I mean, and that's what we used to do, and that was ended in this country. But it used to be that was the case, And so instead of addressing mental health issues, they dumb it down, they drug it down, and lock it away.
So, I know we've talked recently. I don't know how much you could talk about it, but you have some pretty cool new things that you've been working on as well.
Yeah, we got some plans, definitely. A couple of those plans involve, some of our new initiatives, and we're actually making a little bit of headway on some of that. So one of them is called Revitalize with Fungi. Revitalize with Fungi.
Okay.
Which is kind of fun to say. Fun guy.
Yeah,
right?
You're a fun guy.
I'm a fun guy, yeah. So that initiative, what we're looking to do is we're looking to create climate-controlled environments by using shipping containers, which we've already gotten a few donated.
Hold on. It's pretty weird. I just started to get a bunch of shipping containers for sale on my feed. Like, where did that come? I just started seeing them early this morning.
I don't know, man.
This algorithm's wild.
We're connecting. Yeah, that's what
Jesus.
They're connecting our algorithms.
No joke.
Bro.
I mean, I must have seen 15 ads for
that. Well, because I'm searching for shipping containers every day, man.
What's that got to do with me? I guess they see
we're
connected.
You, buddy. Yeah.
We're like, oh, these guys do stuff together.
Yeah.
All right, proceed.
We'll let this guy know.
I just had to bring that up.
Well, we're not buying them, man. We're begging for them at this point, right? So these are getting
you're
donated.
You're a 501c.
Yeah, these are getting donated. And shout out to Land and Sea Equipment, by the way. They're out of Miami. That guy's a solid guy. He does a lot of stuff for the community, not just us. I was talking to him. He's got like 10 different nonprofits he donates to and helps out with.
Wow.
So far he's donated 2 shipping containers. That's like $7,000 in value. And we have that out at the farm, St. Lucie Farm Preserve. They've pledged some of their property out of the 280 acres so that we have a place to build our base camp, essentially.
Oh, how cool, man. Great property, great guys. Well, Mike and Justin out there.
Yeah.
So you got these containers, getting some of them donated, climate control, and then you're going to grow mushrooms.
Yes. So the Revitalize with Fungi program, what we seek to do is we seek to divert waste from the waste stream, right? So basically we're going to go and collect certain cardboards from local restaurants, offices, whatever. That'll get taken back to the facility. It will get cleaned and homogenized and
what does
prepared.
That mean?
So basically what it's doing is it's disinfecting it, essentially. It gets rid of any other,
So you heat it? You just...
Yeah, there's a process for it, yeah. And essentially they wash it and then heat it and basically get all the contaminants out of it, because when you're growing mushrooms, you don't want any other mold spores or anything like that in there. So it's very important that you have that sterilized, right? So that medium will get prepared to be grown on, and essentially the mushrooms will grow and consume the cardboard. So effectively we'll be turning trash into food, right? And the other kind of exciting thing about that is what we'll be growing is things like oyster mushrooms and some other mushrooms that are kind of highly sought after by restaurants. So we're working to create a revenue stream for the nonprofit with that program. So we'll be able to train people in the process of, doing this recycling and growing these mushrooms and what it takes to do that. Also, we'll be training some people in the process of retrofitting these containers to be climate controlled, right? So people will be getting an education out of this process. We'll be recycling material out of this process and turning those things into a revenue stream for the nonprofit, so we don't always have to beg for stuff.
Oh, I love it, man. I love it. I mean, you've always been really good at that as well, like connecting, like saying this relates with this, and then this could help here, and then by doing this, this connects to this, and then we could use this as food for the mushroom, and like it all works together really cool, man.
Comes in one big circle.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, everything does, man. And then how about, like, in construction, you've been working on anything? And I think we were talking about that. Are you allowed to talk about any of the...
Well, so that's some of the projects that we'll be working on with the shipping containers will involve models for affordable housing.
Okay.
Right? And, I mean, I don't mind. I mean, here's the concept. Anybody that wants to take this and run with this, because we need affordable housing and, we need novel ways to do it. And being that I grew up in Detroit, I seen how assembly lines work. I didn't want to work in a factory, but I know how they work, right? And so one of the concepts working with shipping containers is that we would be able to essentially create modular kitchens and bath units, right? So the heart of your house, we would basically make them modular, right? So this would be its own contained unit built in a factory, kind of on an assembly line, right? And then the containers will come along, and these modular units would then get dropped into the retrofitted container units, essentially, and then get finished off, plumbed in, wired in, whatever. So what we'd like to seek to do is to create an indoor manufacturing environment for shipping container affordable housing, and do it in a way that kind of resembles an assembly line, that we can benefit from cost benefits of efficiency, of making large purchases, right? So you're going to purchase the stuff to build 10 houses, and it's going to be in a climate-controlled factory, not getting destroyed by the weather, the sun, this or that, getting lost, getting stolen. So you can kind of control a lot of that lost cost by doing that way. So that's kind of one of the things we want to work to do with the shipping containers, is work along those lines to kind of build a model where that can be done. And the other thing in terms of construction and affordable housing, we're working on a project with 3D printed construction. Have you ever heard of that? And so
a little bit.
Yeah, and what we try to call it is a mortar extruded structure, because that way people don't go, oh man, 3D printed, that sounds hokey pokey. Yeah. Because people think 3D printed, they think, they're
plastic.
tabletop 3D printed. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So kind of a little bit of a negative connotation, I think, with some people when you say 3D printed house. But what it is essentially this is a robot that will print layers of high-strength mortar, and when it's done, it delivers a product superior to a cinder block wall, right? Higher PSI for the block, than the block as well.
Man, that's intense. So when it comes to that, I know you were talking about affordable housing earlier. Is that kind of where this is going to fall in?
Yeah, and I feel like that's where it's going to fall in, because if we're doing, this type of process where we're doing construction 3D printing, 2 guys can 3D print, a 2,500 square foot structure in a few days. Just 2 guys.
Wow,
right?
Man.
And if you do a development, let's say we get a chunk of property, the nonprofit, and we can do 10 units on it, right? The amount of time you're going to save on a crew printing the walls for 10 houses is going to equals your ability to provide affordable housing. You know what I'm saying? So that's where you're going to see savings from efficiency doing things like that. And I mean, I see that there's a lot of that coming in the future, because one of the things we're lacking is skilled labor right now. It's hard to find people with skill to do these jobs, right? So if we can come up with a plan, something a little novel, it's not, really been done before, that we can try to come at the affordable housing issue, that could be the solution. Doing it a different way. Like we said, same thing with mental health. All right, let's do this a different way.
Wow, man, that's super cool, man. And your mind is always working. Like, how did you come across this? What a crazy.
So I've always
futuristic.
I've always been into different types of what they call stereolithography printing. So 3D printing.
Okay.
There's a bunch. There's 5 or 10 different ways that you can 3D print, and construction 3D printing is just one of them. So I've had my eyes on it. I mean, for years, man, and I've been watching for this to come. And there's a company called Apiscore. They have a headquarters up in Melbourne, so we've done training with them. Did their on-site on the online classes. We were on-site at their place doing a class, and these guys have really got it figured out, man. They've run this machine through its courses. They did a competition with NASA for Mars build. So,
wow.
I mean, they developed their mortar to be rated for Mars use, essentially 11,000 PSI mortar, right? Because I think NASA said, hey, we need 10,000 PSI. So they formulated it, made it work 11,000 PSI, right? So that technology is really going to keep moving forward, because I don't see a lot of people who are going, hey, man, I want to go be in the construction industry. Just not like kids ain't coming out of school and want to go into construction, right? And most people don't want to do masonry work. Like, I don't know if you ever done any masonry work, but it is I've done all trade work, right, from top to bottom. And the most physical work you're going to do is definitely masonry work.
Oh, yeah. You see
right?
those guys walking around with them Popeye forearms.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, exactly. Grabbing brick, grabbing block. Like,
Yeah.
and the thing is, man, is that's a lost generation, bro. You don't even meet people like that anymore, dude.
No,
right?
man.
So what are we going to do when nobody wants to sling block anymore, right? What's it going to be? We're going to need a solution, right? And then the problem is the price on all this stuff is going to drive up the less people there is to do it. If I got 5,000 crews that want to build houses versus 500 crews, that's going to affect pricing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, man. So that's like the future. Are there any other areas that are using this?
Oh, absolutely, man. It's becoming rapidly popular. They're actually building 3 homes up in Melbourne with Habitat for Humanity, right?
Have there been any that have been tested with storms or anything?
Yeah, so they have had, all kinds of, tests, lab tests. They do all that. And their structures, they have them built in, I think they built one in the Ukraine, was like the first one that they printed. And I'm trying to think where else they have them printed. I don't know right offhand, but I don't know if any of them been hit directly by storms. That's a good question. I'm going to ask the guys next time. That's a really good question. Have any of them been hit by a good storm yet?
Yeah,
right?
And like I said, I figured they have done their own testing, but
right.
Once
Has
again,
Mother Nature tested it yet?
That's the question. Yeah. Is there any rebar?
Absolutely. So the way they do this system is this system meets or exceeds the standards for cinder block construction by the Florida Building Code.
That was going to be my other question.
Right.
So it is recognized by the building code already.
Right, because the reason why is they use the componentry just like they do for a cinder block build. So you got reinforced cells every 4 foot where they put a number 5 rebar down into the slab, right? And they fill those cells, and the other thing is they can go in because these cells are in a line now, perfectly in a line. So because it prints them in a layer, right? So you can literally look down the cell and it's clean and clear. So you know what they can do now? The advantage of that is they fill them with a polyurethane foam. You can get an R45 rating on the wall. R45. Wow. A regular house building code requires R13.
Wow.
Right?
Very cool. So how far out do you see this happening?
Well, for us, I mean, for us to be 3D printing stuff, we're a couple of years. We're funding away. We're writing grants. We're working with some for-profit partners, that are working to start some things up along with that, they get it going. Essentially, the nonprofit, will be able to benefit from using their technology. So, yeah, we're a ways out on that. That's going to take a lot of grant writing, a lot of money. I mean, I'll tell you, it's, 100 or it's 800, about between 800,000 to about $1 million to start up a company that can do that kind of work.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's not cheap getting into it.
But once you get rolling,
hey man, that it's tools are everything. I mean, that's how I've made money my entire life is with tools. Yeah. And the better my tool, the better I make money.
Yeah, you always got a cool little gadget or hey, I got this. You're measuring laser measurements and you got everything.
That's how I make my money with good tools, man.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. And dude, it's like I said earlier, when I think of somebody with ideas, not only with the ideas, but that executes, man, you're always one of the first that come to mind. And even if I ever have any questions on anything, I'm like, Roger, what do you think? He's like, oh, we'll get it figured out. You're great at that.
If I don't know, I'll find someone that's smarter than me, man. That's what I learned.
No, that's cool, man. So let's kind of round it all up a little bit. Like any parting thoughts, because, I was kind of explaining the kind of people that are going to be watching this. Sure. They've kind of got an idea of your background, your story, but any mindset hacks or anything, any kind of lessons.
I got mindset hacks for sure. But
yeah, drop a couple
first
as
of all,
we go out.
Go to bed with some Vaseline and a kielbasa next to the nightstand. You're gonna have to get up in the morning and like this, buddy, kind of mind fuck yourself. So sometimes that's what it takes to get going. I don't know if you can say that on the podcast. Yeah, but sometimes you got to. I didn't even know where it was going. Sometimes you got to mind fuck yourself, man.
I'm glad it was the ear.
Sometimes it is so hard to get out of bed in the morning, and look, man, I know what it's like. Life is not easy, right? Yeah. And sometimes the day really looks ugly, right? And you just gotta change your thought process, man. Right? It's going to change the way you feel. So you just kind of get up in the morning, and if you sit there and you're like, I got all these bills to pay, and I got to do this, and this isn't going to work, and this is going to be so terrible, you're going to have a terrible day, dude. Yep. You're not going to get through it, dude. Right? But if you wake up in the morning and you just kind of mind fuck yourself a little bit, and you just go, hey, man, beautiful day. It could be raining outside. It's a beautiful day. It's okay.
Yeah. The grass needed some water. Cool.
Yeah, so you just have to, it's really... It's your state of mind, right? And your thoughts drive your feelings, right? So you got to be careful of what you're thinking, right? So you got to think positive thoughts. Never think you can't. Always think you can, right? And I think that's, the biggest thing I got to go away with, man, is just never think you can't.
Yeah, because you're probably right. If you think
that, you can't, you probably can't.
Exactly.
That's right. Absolutely.
That's that saying, man. Both the man who thinks that they can or thinks that he can't are both right.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I love it,
Always
man.
think you can, man.
I love that, dude. That's strong. Well, I want to thank you, man. This was awesome.
Can I give a shout out to all the sponsors?
Of course, man. Really what do you got going on?
Because this is important, man. Because without the sponsors, and some people know us, some people don't. But we don't take paychecks, for this stuff. We don't have a huge foundation that is, funding everything that we do. We are solely dependent on these local business sponsors like the St. Lucie Farm Preserve, right?
Yes.
Those guys are huge, dude. They have pledged 2 acres of land for our use. We couldn't afford that. I can't pay for that. I don't have that money. but because of them, we are able to continue and grow our mission. Without them, we would be nothing, right?
I love it.
Fat Chicken, right? Tessa Adams.
I just got
true
hungry.
Fort Pierce, right there.
Yes.
I love her business. Shout out to her.
Yeah.
They're building a new spot on US 1. Everybody go there. Help her out, man. Help her build this place. Go spend some of your money. Yeah. Oh, dude. Best
chicken
shrimp.
and waffles.
The shrimp, bro. I love her shrimp, bro. I love
everything.
that shrimp meal, like coating, whatever it is, right?
It's cornmeal they use.
Cornmeal,
It's got a
yeah.
little touch of sweetness to it.
I love it, bro.
Yeah.
So she's one of our sponsors. Special thing is, Tessa doesn't just write a check. Tessa writes a check and shows up and rolls up her sleeve.
Yes, I've
right?
seen her
and
at
that's
many
what
events.
that's what she does. So big shout out to her. I mean, same thing. The Rooted Reef Kava Bar. These guys, when we did the Hurricane Ian relief work, right? We were over there for like a month and a half, 2 months. Set up base camp over there. Cleaning up in a neighborhood most people didn't even know got totally flooded to nothing. They showed up with a trailer full of stuff. Toys for kids, rolled up their sleeves, helped us clean out old people's houses. So, I mean, that's, we love it. Like, we appreciate every sponsor, but I got to tell you, I love you just a little bit more when you come and you roll up your sleeves with us, man. And, Sunrise City Cafe, I can't say enough good things about Nicole.
Mm-hmm.
We do our Saturday pickup Fort Pierce, and when she seen us out there, or whatever it was, about a year ago when we started doing it, she's like, what are you guys doing? So we're going to be out here every Saturday picking up. She said, well, guess what? Tell your volunteers they get a free sandwich.
That's awesome,
right?
man.
So these, she's saying thank you, man, to everybody. Beach Bowls also a Saturday sponsor. You can get a free Beach Bowls if you come and pick up downtown, right?
That's awesome.
You can also get free Rooted Reef, by the way. So 3 sponsors Saturday: Rooted Reef, Beach Bowls, and Sunrise City Cafe. Huge thanks to them. They make that Saturday program work. Norwood Sawmills out of New York, they donated a really nice band sawmill.
That's huge.
Which is like a $10,000 piece of equipment. That's going to allow us to do the Sawyer program, reclaim down trees from hurricanes and other storm events, train young adults how to be Sawyers, how to turn something that we thought was garbage into something usable. So that's huge. That's also another program we're going to work to create a revenue stream with the byproduct of that. Shout out to Shaman Media.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Shaman, this guy is a regular sponsor.
Mundo.
Mundo. He looks out for us. And then we got a recent sponsor is Swift Grill, man. So you guys go check out Swift Grill. He's on US 1, just north of the bridge there. And, great Romanian, style, but he is a little mixed up. He does like a chicken shawarma, some other Middle Eastern stuff in there.
I need to go check that out.
You got to go, dude. Let's go do lunch there, bro. He wants to meet you anyway.
Yeah,
So the great sponsor, and just I can't thank our sponsors enough, because if it wasn't for our sponsors, it would all be coming out of my pocket.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
So it helps
sure.
me not go broke. While we work on doing things like creating revenue streams, right? We're writing grants, right? We're putting our sponsors on board, and we're working to create programs that create revenue streams, right?
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. That's very cool, man. Like I say, you got a giver's heart, man. You do all these things. Great businessman, but more than anything, man, is you're just here to help, man, and I absolutely love that, man.
Thanks, man. Well, I love to help, man. I like to fix things, and I like to be helpful.
Yeah, that's it, man. Well, guys, thank you all for hanging with us. This is Roger Templeman, CAD/COM Design, Stabilize and Revitalize. Guys, we got many, many more awesome guests coming, but for today, man, thank you guys for being here. Roger, thank you so much, man. It was great.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you, man.